The Sonic Movie Show is a weekly podcast that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Just search for The Sonic Movie Show and give us a like wherever you listen. What's up, guys? Welcome to the 14th episode of The Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's going to be a lot more boring than what you're used to. I'm Ethan. With me is Devin.
And your Sonic movie quote, oh no, not Sonic movie quote, Sonic the Hedgehog quote is, "Back in business, thanks."
And what's that supposed to be from?
It's from Team Sonic Racing, which I've been playing a lot of.
I haven't touched it yet.
Because we both got it on Black Friday there. I'm like, let me give this a shot. And we played it a little bit, and then you left, and I kept playing it, and now me and Tails are like best buds. I have his like car decked out with like this chrome gold kind of like.
I saw you got a bunch of trophies in it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like jealous now.
I'm just doing the story mode really. It's
gotta
not
beat
bad.
it on hard
it's not
mode.
bad. I am enjoying it. I'm having fun. I would recommend Tails to you for sure. Tails, I think, is the OP character secretly, and Sonic, I think, is good too. But don't play as anybody else.
Fortunately, we won't be seeing Tails after that game for a while because he's not going to be in the Sonic movie. At least so we think. Sonic movie comes out on February 14th, 2020. But initially, it was supposed to come out this year on November 8th. A big jump in the delay, obviously, due to the reanimation. And so we wanted to spend this episode looking back and pretending, what if it came out in November? How do we think it would have done? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you wanna start and explain what we're doing.
Basically, we're gonna do some math. Shout out to all the Yang Gang fellows out there who like that stuff. I don't. I hate math, but I do like box office stuff. So we're gonna look at box office results for movies that came out in November, this past November, and kind of just have a guesstimate and being like, okay, best case scenario, Sonic got this much. Worst case scenario, Sonic got this much. But we're also going to look a little bit back at Pokemon Detective Pikachu and see like, hey, would it have exceeded that? Would it have matched it? And we can kind of compare what came out around that time as well. So we're going to look at domestic and international, but we're using two websites. We're using Box Office Pro and Box Office Mojo by IMDb Pro. A lot of pros out there.
Lots of ads, I'm sure.
Yes, both have different ways of looking at it. But I want to start with saying that November 2019 as a whole, this is all the movies that came out in domestic theaters, down 11% in terms of money spent.
As opposed to last November?
Yes, to last November. So $925 million, which is still crap ton of money, but 11% down from last year. So that maybe is telling you, hey, not as many people this holiday season. You can say maybe because Thanksgiving started.
And this is domestic, right?
Yeah, so
this
it's like Thanksgiving was at the end of the month, so maybe people probably aren't seeing movies during that time. Or maybe they are. Maybe they are, who knows?
It's like the shortest gap between Thanksgiving and Christmas that we've had in a very long time, right?
Yeah.
So,
because it's Thanksgiving was
stupid
last week,
holidays,
and then
not
we
having
have
concrete dates.
We have 3 weeks till Christmas after that. But
yeah.
I feel like more people tend to see movies in December, like around Christmas, than you would in Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Unless
for sure. I mean, there's a reason why like Star Wars and trailers are like on Christmas Day
because there's kind of a cool thing to do. I actually got to see The Last Jedi on Christmas Day, and that was really fun, cool experience. That me and my girlfriend woke up, opened presents from Santa, and then we drove to the movie theater and saw Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And then I think we also saw The Greatest Showman.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie on Christmas.
It was really fun, and it's really fun. I would highly recommend it.
Well, it's not Christmas now.
Nope.
It's only December, early December. We'll just call it early December. And we're going to be looking back at November. So why don't you kick us off with our first look? Do we want to start with the release date of the old Sonic movie, November 8th? Just look at that.
I think we have to kind of look ahead of time, like maybe at least a week, just because those movies still are probably going to be playing. So like they'll have their... Because if you go back to November, because the 2nd is the first weekend of November, and then Sonic wouldn't have come out till the next Friday. So some movies would have had their opening weekend on that Saturday/Friday, and then usually it's your second weekend that has not as much as opening weekend would in terms of profit, but it's definitely your second biggest push for money. Be like, hey, if we did really well opening night, you're probably going to do well the second weekend. If not, then you're probably in trouble.
Then you're screwed.
Which is, for example, I know Terminator Dark Fate had an all right opening and then had a terrible next couple weekends.
Which is disappointing.
Which is disappointing because it was a good film.
That was a fun movie.
So let's start with, we'll just go to November 1st. I'm using Box Office Mojo here for this. So some of these dates might be off because I know there was like early screenings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to just do main movies. There's plenty of movies that came out, like indie films and stuff. But I'm just going to start with the main big ones I think that would have impacted Sonic in some way.
Right.
So we have Terminator Dark Fate, which was out on November 1st. Arctic Dogs.
A Jeremy Renner special.
And Harriet. And then Motherless Brooklyn, which I don't remember. But those are probably the big four there that were playing on November 1st. And then you had a couple come out in the middle of the week. But then you had on November 8th. So before we go to November 8th. So we have Terminator, Arctic Dogs, and Harriet. And then Motherless Brooklyn. I'm going to say probably the biggest one that would have an impact on Sonic would probably be Arctic Dogs. And you're probably like, well, why, Devin? Well, because we got to remember Sonic is probably going to be, it's a family movie, but I think based off the trailer, it's going to be more catered to, I would say, like 16 and under. And Arctic Dogs is like a 10 and under film, probably.
Yeah.
So you're going to get that same audience. So keep that in mind, being like, okay, if I'm a family of four and we can only afford to go to one movie a month, if that, some people don't even go to one movie a year because it is pricey to do now. But let's say like
if you have a family,
let's say if they're a family of four and they can afford to go to the movie just once per month, you have Arctic Dogs there as an option. All right, so you got to keep that in mind, and that's just the first weekend of November.
Feel bad for that family.
So then we get to next weekend, November 8th, Friday. We have Doctor Sleep, Last Christmas, Midway, Playing with Fire, Better Days, and all these other films here. But those are the big ones, I would say, are Doctor Sleep, Last Christmas, Midway, and Playing with Fire. Doctor Sleep is, Shining, so you probably don't have to worry about that one too much. Like, I don't think anyone who's like...
Yeah, Stephen King doesn't really cross over with Sonic.
It's either Sonic or this psychological thriller. I don't know which. Last Christmas is a comedy drama romance starring my one favorite hot guy from Crazy Rich Asians. Okay. I love him. He's a good guy. And we got Midway, which is war movie. How much does that would affect Sonic that night? I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Very little.
Maybe if people are like, I want action, maybe. But that's like realism. You know what I mean? Compared to cartoon violence. Then we have Playing with Fire with John Cena, Keegan-Michael Key. That's a comedy family film.
That would have been a big competitor.
Yeah, for at least that night.
I think a big thing to note about these four movies is that these were wide release films. The rest of the movies that came out on the 8th, they were either like single run or really early releases or whatever. But, on the 8th, really, it only had 4 movies to compete with.
Mr. Toilet, a documentary.
Yes, I saw that down there. Mr. Toilet, the world's number 2 man. Kind of looks like he looks like someone. But anyway, like those 4 movies, like no real competition with Sonic. Like, yes, Playing with Fire, I think because it's more of a family kind of looking film. It's also short, which helps.
Hour and 36
if you're
minutes.
A parent,
yeah, that's really short.
Yeah, if you're a parent,
It looks like there's...
what's the actual minimum length you can be to be considered a feature picture? Is it 90 minutes?
I think it would have to be 90, right?
Because I think, wasn't it the original Dumbo? Was like shorter than that. It was like an hour.
I'm not sure.
Or something.
I mean, I'm looking at Arctic Dogs here, an hour and 32 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's even shorter than Playing with Fire.
If Sonic had come out on November 8th, it would have been the biggest for that weekend, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I know now, but the thing is we have hindsight. Like, I know Dr. Sleep didn't do that hot that weekend. Like, it was all right. People came out to it.
Stephen King movies don't really ever do all that well anyway.
Yeah, and Last Christmas I know it's not even in the theaters anymore. And I mean, I guess that's fair since it's been out for a month, but I remember looking back like last week and I didn't see it. So it looked like it was only out for like 3 weeks, at least at my movie theater. So I don't know. Like I said, Playing with Fire I think was here and gone. I don't know how much it made. Let me look. Box office of 39 million. Opening weekend for it was 12 million, which is not bad for probably fourth wheeling here. Let me see what Dr. Sleep made quick. 14 million. So yeah, they all kind of split. It looks like 14. Last Christmas was 11. Midway was 17. So Midway actually won that. Actually kind of surprised by that. Between the 4 of them, they split about 15 apiece. Just keep that in mind. We're going to go a little bit further down just because, okay, this will be Sonic's second weekend. Let's say.
Well, first off, if we go to the next weekend, we're missing a very important movie. Shakira in concert, El Dorado World Tour.
Why didn't we see that, yo?
I know.
But November 15th, the next Friday, so this would have been Sonic's second weekend, we have Ford versus Ferrari.
Huge movie.
Charlie's Angels, The Good Liar. So not a super heavy slate there, except for maybe Ford versus Ferrari. Because you have some big actors with Matt Damon, Christian Bale. Charlie's Angels, we know in hindsight, didn't do good at all.
It made like $3 million in profit. I think that would have been the closest to a competitor, just because like, oh, you're probably young kids probably can't see it, but like,
yeah,
it's a lot closer to something a kid might be interested in than The Good Liar.
I was gonna say Ford versus Ferrari had a 31 million opening. Let's say like, we're gonna talk about it later about we're like, hey, what would Sonic's best case scenario be, and what would Sonic's worst case scenario be? Just looking at that number, 31 million from Ford versus Ferrari. I don't think Sonic would have survived that, no matter how good it was. Unless that's its competitor, like Ford vs. Ferrari is more of a teen and up film. When
it depends, though. I mean, if we look at it like, okay, Sonic already had a full week.
Yeah.
Everyone, their one movie this week, they already saw it as Sonic. So then as a second week, who's going to go see Sonic?
Yeah.
I think it would be more of kids and stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like teen and up probably would see Ford vs. Ferrari. But I'm trying to also look at this too as like, if I'm only seeing one movie a month, because I think the average family probably could only afford to go one movie a month. Generally, I think most at a most. I would say
how many people are seeing 12 movies a year.
All right, we're gonna go a little bit further. So then we have our Sonic Killer that we predicted early on when we first heard that Sonic was coming out November 8th. We saw that on November 22nd, that Friday. We have Frozen 2, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, 21 Bridges.
21 Bridges, a movie where I feel like I've seen commercials and trailers for 10 years.
A couple other early release movies, but I'm not going to count those. So yeah, Frozen 2, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and 21 Bridges. So that is that weekend. Then the last weekend we had...
This is where Sonic would have died.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, first off, Frozen 2 is only an hour and 43 minutes. That's actually shorter than I imagined.
Really? I would have thought it would be that. But then there's a couple movies that come out. Knives Out had an early release in November 27th. Not a super... Like, it's still 3,000 theaters, so it's a decent amount. Yeah, $26 million opening. Jesus. All right. Also, Queen and Slim had an early release on November 27th. We don't have to worry about those two. I think we could end it with November 22nd.
It dies with Frozen.
Because the 29th, nothing really dropped because it was Black Friday. No one's going to bother to release anything that day unless there was some crazy deal. I don't know. I'm actually surprised movie theaters don't do that. Being like, hey, Black Friday, buy one, get one ticket or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm surprised they don't do that more often.
Yeah, to be honest. I mean, so if you look at it this way, though, so Frozen 2 obviously is going to stay in theaters until probably midway through January, I would imagine. It's probably going to be one of their biggest money makers.
Listen to this opening, though. I think you'll be surprised by this. I'm actually I guess I'm not too surprised. I feel like it's a hair lower than I thought it would be. 130 million
domestic. It made just under 10 times as much as the second biggest movie in November.
That's true.
And then internationally, that's where it's going to make all of its money. Usually in Hollywood, like, domestic is where you make all your money back, and that's where you get like all your merchandise stuff done. And then like international, that's where, in China mainly, that's where you make really all your money. If you look at it, like, how many of these movies that came out in November are going to stick around for a long time? Like I said, Frozen 2 is going to last through January, mid-January. Sonic would last easily till Christmas. How many...
I would disagree with that.
I almost called it views like a YouTube video. But how many people are going to go see Sonic after Frozen 2, after they've already seen Frozen 2, after they've already gone through all that stuff, and it's just a movie like, oh, we're bored, what do you want to do? We could go see Sonic, because if I'm not mistaken, Pikachu benefited from that a lot. Because, like, it's not a movie that a lot of people were super interested in, but it was a movie that, oh, it's around, and there's nothing else to see, we've already seen Spider-Man, let's go see Pikachu.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of disagree, though, when you said Sonic would last to Christmas. November 8th, Terminator Dark Fate was in theaters for about 4 weeks and gone, and that's a big blockbuster film. The only one that lasts a couple months is Joker, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I haven't really seen that.
I forgot that movie even came out.
I disagree. I say it would go to like the second week of December It would have to do really well, I think, the first 2 weeks to prove that, like, hey, this is worth showing in the theaters, because the movie theater is not going to show a movie that no one's buying tickets for.
Right. And when you reach Christmas, half the theaters are going to show, half your screens are going to be playing Star Wars. And then another quarter will be playing Frozen 2.
And Cats. Cats is, I'm telling you, Cats is actually going to surprise everyone. Stop hating on Cats. It's going to be good. It's going to make bank. It's going to make bank. You're underestimating the musical industry.
I think that movie it's either going to do fine and people are going to be like, yeah, I saw it. It was what I expected. Or it's going to be a gigantic flop. I don't see that movie being successal at all. I don't think that movie's going to be a surprise. I think it's going to make its money, or it's going to be just the biggest flop.
I'm not saying it's going to beat out Star Wars, but I'm saying at least 500 mil. At least 500 mil. You're underestimating the musical industry. You're underestimating all the actors who are in that film. People are going to go want to see Taylor Swift. You're underestimating the Taylor Swift army. All right?
300 is optimistic.
500 million. You heard it.
Well, you heard it here first.
500 million. Anyways, Frozen 2, by the way, I just want to point out, had out of all the box office, if you split up by percentages, had 29% of the total earnings in November. Frozen 2, and it was only out for 2 weeks, basically a week and a half because of Black Friday and Thanksgiving. Yeah. That's insane. 29%. 302.92 million earned in November. In 2 weeks.
It happens in video games too. I remember the month that a couple years ago the Crash Bandicoot remake trilogy came out. It came out on like the second to last day of the month, and it was the #1 bestseller of the month. And it was like a good month too. So like if it's something like Frozen 2 that people are like waiting all year to see, you know, how many little kids are like have been waiting to see that movie. That movie is going to do gangbusters like opening weekend, and that's all that really matters. The drop off is big enough after your opening weekend that you're riding a wave.
But that's more, to me, that's more like Disney. Hey, we own Hollywood now. Yeah,
everything.
We own everything. So like they can make a movie and like it'll last a long time unless it's just bad. But even then, people will see bad Disney films.
I mean, going back to how long it can stay in theaters, like Disney has such a pull on the film industry that they can strong arm and be like, no, this film is going to stay in theaters because we want it to make more money. And we know it can make more money. Or even just being like, we won't do this for you if you remove Frozen 2.
Hey, AMC, you're going to give us a 3-month deal for Frozen 2. But hey, you get free. We can give you assets to make some cups. You know, some Frozen 2 cups.
Oh, by the way, we get 33% of all concession sales.
Yeah, that too. That's in the fine print. Yeah, just looking at this, even if you took Frozen 2 out, Ford versus Ferrari, which also came out the same time. When did that come out again?
November 8th. No, November 15th.
So that would have been Sonic's second weekend. I think that, like, if we're looking at the model, our guesstimate model of 4-person family can only go to one movie. Like, you have that dog movie, which didn't do. I don't even see it on this list here. So maybe that wouldn't have played a factor in Sonic's
release. It made $6 million worldwide. That movie's a flop. We have
Playing with Fire at 8th there, 4% with $39 million. I think that definitely would have put a divot in it. But I think that and Ford vs. Ferrari, just by an average moviegoer, because everyone's going to want to see Matt Damon. I really think even without Frozen 2, Sonic would have just probably done all right. With Frozen 2, I think it honestly would have just killed it. Yeah. I would have been very worried releasing that as Paramount and being like, especially with Terminator Dark Fate doing bad as a studio, you'd probably be like, oh shit, like Terminator Dark Fate did terrible. It's not making any money.
We're in a post reveal of the second trailer world right now, so we're optimistic about the film. Obviously, this original release date was only, when we had the original design, which everyone was like, this looks awful. That this movie would not have done as well as it's going to do because of the redesign. So it probably would have had its great first week, and then it would have died off, probably start to really die off in its next week, but then be just stopped dead in its tracks by Frozen 2.
Yeah, I think, let's say, because I see Terminator Dark Fate had a $61 million opening. I see, or not 61, sorry, 61 total domestic, my bad. That's so bad. I'm just gonna look at November 8th and just double check one more time here. So Doctor Sleep made 14 million opening.
Domestic.
Last Christmas 11. Midway 17. Playing with Fire 12. I'm gonna be generous and I'll give Sonic a 15 million opening.
Really?
I'm gonna say that 15 million. Just based off everything else that came out around then, I'm gonna say 15 million. To me, I think that's generous. You tell me if you disagree. Do you think it'd be more?
Honestly, I think it could be at least 30.
30.
I don't think it would go up to 50
Let me
though.
look at Detective Pikachu's opening weekend, by the way, is 54. So I can see an argument for 30. I'm just thinking November,
I think
like
so.
as.
But again, going back, like we're looking at it as a month, but for a lot of people, it's just what's out now, what's out this week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's out right now, and there's nothing really to compete with Sonic on that opening weekend. So it would have been able to kill in its
let's
demographic.
say like 25. We'll break the middle ground. I'll give it more to you though. I'm gonna after seeing Detective Pikachu opening for 54, I'm gonna say 25 to 30. I agree with that. So let's say 25 to 30.
You know what? No, screw you. I'm going up to 75.
500.
75.
500.
Take it or
All right,
leave
so let's
it.
say 25, 30. And then we go to next weekend against Ford versus Ferrari, which had an opening of 31. Charlie's Angels, 8. The Good Liar, 5. So, like, Ford versus Ferrari just destroyed that weekend, pretty much.
Yeah.
Any random person who might be going, I feel like they're like, oh, I'm going to go see Ford versus Ferrari. Even I saw Ford versus Ferrari just because I was like, I don't really like cars too much, but I found it really entertaining because Matt Damon, Christian Bale, man. So I feel like you were saying, that definitely would have really slowed Sonic down. I think, like, even if he had a really good week, a really good opening weekend of like 40, something crazy like that, 50. Let's say we match Pikachu to 55. I think Ford versus Ferrari would really cut it down, maybe down to like a 15 at best.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a 20 at best. So now we're talking. So let's say it's 15. We'll be generous. 15, and had a 30 opening, so that's 45 million. And we're already in his first 2 weeks.
And then it dies by the hands of Elsa.
But also you have a couple million within the week, so let's just round up to 50. We'll do 50 million right now in the first 2 weeks for Sonic, right? And then the Sonic Killer comes around the corner. Frozen 2 with an opening of 130 million. Sonic's dead. I think you get maybe you get 5 million from that night, from that weekend. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, look at, so 130 domestic opening weekend for Frozen 2, and total domestic gross so far is 302, just from its, like, first day or two, you know what I mean? And again, that's the power of people, like, you know, anticipating and waiting for a movie for a full year. That's how you destroy
And if you
the
look at, like,
movies that come
21
before
Bridges
you.
here, which came out the same day, only made 9 million, and that's its opening night. Like, I don't think, if Sonic's already been out for 2 weeks, and let's say some people who do go to movie theaters every week, they're definitely not seeing it again, probably, unless it's the best film ever made. But yeah, like, if I'm taking my kids to the movie theaters on November 22nd or that weekend, do you think they're going to want to see Frozen 2 or Sonic, the average kid?
Frozen 2 for sure, obviously. But I do, you know, Sonic is definitely the next movie guarantee, you know what I mean? Unless you just have a kid that just really wants to see Frozen 2 again.
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, you can argue, might be...
I don't know. I don't think there's a single kid, how we look at a modern child that's going to be like, interested in that movie. They're going to be like, this looks dumb and stupid. They didn't watch Mr. Rogers as a kid. Why is Tom Hanks takes his shoes off after walking halfway through his house? I don't get it. I can't relate to that. I'm 7.
And then
that's my impression.
Yeah, and
anyway.
the week after that, we had Black Friday, so not many movies came out. You had Knives Out for some early screenings, it looks like, and Queen and Slim on top of that as well. So yeah, I mean, I think Sonic would have to make most of its money in the first 2 weekends, and I think it would just have to surrender.
Knives Out made 27 for its opening weekend domestic.
I think it came out December. I think that was... I don't know when. Yeah, but we can still look at that.
I'm looking at Box Office Mojo, and it says November 27th, and it says opening weekend.
Okay, so it did come up that weekend. Okay.
To 3,500 theaters.
Okay, so let's say, like, Sonic gets through the first opening weekend of Frozen 2, and then, once again, Knives Out is it rated R? PG-13. You could argue that some families, maybe, like, who have kids who are a little bit older, like I'm saying 15, 16, might go see Knives Out over a Sonic.
I think we underestimate the ability of a parent to be like, I don't care, I'll take this kid anyway. And I don't know how many people because I went to go see Batman v Superman opening night. I don't know how many little children were in that film or in that theater.
If we weren't doing this podcast and you told me Knives Out or Sonic, I'm probably picking Knives Out, to be honest with you. And I love Sonic, but like if you told me like you can only see one of these movies and you can never see it again, I'll be like, Knives Out, please.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what makes me think that Sonic wouldn't even last till Christmas, is because I feel like it would do so poorly after Frozen 2 that they would be like, look, no one's buying this. That's what I'm saying. I could be wrong. I'm saying, will it be worth to even have that more than one theater open? Probably not. Will it make more than $1 million? It'll make 500,000 that day? I don't know. How long did Detective Pikachu last in domestic theaters? Domestic daily. So it released May 10th and lasted till August 15th, but we're talking about making $6,000 a day at the end. 14th. Yeah, it kind of died around August. Yeah, so it had a good run. It went through all of June there, but I'm trying to see if it tells me by number of theaters. I can't really see. But I think the best case scenario, if it did come out then, was it pulls up a Pokemon Detective Pikachu and it gets a good 30, 40 to 50 million opening. I think it would have been a really good opening for Sonic. And then you have to hope that the international is what gives you that bang, because Pokemon Detective Pikachu had an international gross of 280 million, and that equaled
2/3 of it came from overseas.
Yeah, I think that's where Sonic is going to make its money.
Yeah,
I don't know, but then why would you put Jim Carrey in it? Is Jim Carrey known to be an international?
Well, I think this goes back to the narrative we've understood, or at least seem to have understood this whole podcast series, is that the studio really didn't know what they were doing with this film. I don't necessarily think that they were planning ahead, like even like the Transformers movies, they still like focused on the things that would make it a lot of money overseas.
How much? So now that we looked at domestic, let's say, because Pokemon Detective Pikachu only made 144 million domestic. That's how much did Frozen 2 make? 130 in this opening. So I would say if Sonic came out then, it would be a little bit less than Detective Pikachu in its opening. Like I said, I think I would guess at a good number would be 30. I think the final domestic for Sonic would be like, I would say 80. I'm gonna say 8. I would say 80.
I agree that it's not going to crack 100 domestic, but I do think I think Pikachu has a pretty even split here: 1/3 domestic, 2/3 international. I think Sonic is going to make a larger percentage international than it is domestic, just because I think Sonic it appeals more of fast-paced action than you would assume from a movie called Detective Pikachu. So I think the movie just has a bigger appeal in China than Pikachu possibly could have. But I agree. I don't think the movie is going to make 100 million domestic. And I don't think it's going to go past 350 worldwide. I think we can comfortably place it at 300.
I was going to say 300. For international, I was going to say maybe if we say 80 million domestic, I'm going to say 150, 180 international.
I would think 200 international, and I'll go with 80 for domestic.
So 280.
Obviously, we can't really compare to the final results because the landscape is going to be way different. Interest in this movie has gone up.
I just think Frozen 2 would have just killed it. Because Frozen 2's international box office, I saw that it was more already than domestic, which was kind of surprising. I didn't know Frozen 2 was that popular internationally. It has 450 million right now internationally. Domestic's 302. Jesus. So it's almost 150 more international. So that's part of me thinks like, okay, so we're thinking internationally now. Like you said, maybe Sonic's a little more popular in China and Japan. Frozen 2 is still going to take a cut of that.
For
so
sure.
That's what makes me think that I think we probably would be safe to say I think Sonic wouldn't hit over 300 million worldwide.
I just have hope.
You can make an argument of 250. I have no hope, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm looking at it now. To be quite honest, it has a better shot unless there's movies that are unannounced for February. This has a much better shot. The only competitor I can see, it comes out a week before, and that's the Birds of Prey DC movie, which is not the same audience as Sonic, but it's like an action PG-13 movie. Everything else is just like dramas and stuff, things that don't appeal to children.
Did we talk about how we had the theory that maybe, like, yeah, this delay, they weren't, it was more the fact that they're like, oh, this movie's going to get destroyed.
Yeah. And that does happen. Did you hear about, I mean, obviously you're a big fan, so you know about the Godzilla versus Kong delay.
Yeah.
There are talks that movie's actually done and that they're delaying it because they don't like the time slot. And they're moving it.
Yeah, because I think it was supposed to come out
like real soon.
It was like March,
Right.
and there was no trailer, no nothing, and everyone's like, okay, this is getting delayed. Either that or like they're doing a bad job of marketing
Which is
this
possible.
Film. Because Godzilla 2, they had a trailer for that a year ahead of time.
You lose interest.
So,
You know? Okay, just like 21 Bridges. I feel like I've seen that movie been out by now, but it like just came out. But no, I mean, like looking at
marketing,
February
yeah.
here, like it's literally all dramas. Drama, romance, documentary, comedy, romance.
yeah, as we get closer, we definitely want
Yeah.
to do an episode being like, okay, what money are we talking here?
Also, they have the runtime.
Because then we can look at the afterwards, after the movie's out and done, we can look back and be like, hey, we were right, we were wrong. And then maybe we could even go back to visiting November again after it's finished, being like, hey, we were wrong with this. Maybe it would have done well in November, maybe it wouldn't have. But once again, it's going to be a different film because of the animation of Sonic.
Right.
And then maybe they change other scenes too, so we don't even know.
Hour and 40 minutes. That's how long Sonic the Hedgehog is.
All right, I'm okay with that. Sonic's got to be quick. I want to be there they'd be there for 2 hours.
Oh, I don't know though. I mean, same day as Sonic is the Sonic Killer, a Liam Neeson drama romance called Ordinary Love. I think that's going to be the killer.
Hey, it's Valentine's Day, baby. You don't know. Ordinary Love or Sonic, I don't know.
I know which one I'm seeing.
But yeah, any final thoughts on Sonic?
Hey, that's
Money?
my line. No, no. Like I said, this episode was going to be us talking numbers, us talking about projecting things. So I think the movie would have made its money back and then some if it released on November 8th. It would not have been like obvious we'll make a sequel. Like, it might be risky to make a sequel, because oftentimes with animated movies that aren't Disney, you make a sequel and they don't make nearly as much money as the first one because the gimmick isn't really all that original anymore because you already made it.
But would you call that a success? Like, because some studios don't look at that as success because it made its money back and more. It'll be like, like you said, they might not make a sequel. They might be not interested in the IP anymore. They're going to be like, hey, if it doesn't make 3 times its budget, we don't care. We're not touching that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's just the way the landscape is now. Like, Disney, pretty much Disney, sometimes Warner Brothers, but mainly Disney, puts out their forecast of like, all right, we're releasing a movie, this date and this year, and this date and this year, and this date and this year. Here are the next 3 years of Disney movie release dates. All of you guys can figure out other places to release your movies now,
Yeah, and it kind of sucks. And now we're kind of generally rambling about it, but I just want to talk about it quick. It kind of sucks because there is great movies that come out that, yeah, they do more than their budget. Maybe do it like 2 times, and some studios will be like, that's a failure. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it is all business. That's all this is business. They care about how many tickets they sell and how much merchandise they're selling because of it.
It's the way the entertainment industry is, even in video games. I remember when the Tomb Raider reboot came out in 2013, and it sold like 6 million copies, and Square Enix was like, we consider that a failure. It's like, what do you mean? You sold 6 million copies. Games don't do that.
For a single player game,
games just don't do that. So, but people are now looking at like, okay, so obviously we're not going to make Endgame money, but if we don't even make Captain Marvel movie, what are we doing? Which is sad, but
yeah.
I think that, just going back to ending thoughts here, Sonic the Hedgehog has a much better shot in February. I think the audience is a bit more revitalized because the look actually looks good. It actually looks like they listened. The movie's still probably not going to be good. It has nothing to do with the reanimation. He's just going to look better.
I think it won't get lost either because, like you said, 21 Bridges, you felt like has already been out. So now you're confused on what date it came out,
And I think an argument you can be made is like, oh, well, they delayed it so long, people are going to think that, like, oh, it's a long time coming. I think the movie has such a different visual identity now that it is almost as if it's a different movie to a lot of people.
I think the trailer also, like, me and you are more involved in the nerdscape, if you want to call it that, than other people. But I do remember when the first trailer came out, people were on my Facebook, who I never would have thought would be interested in Sonic the Hedgehog movie, were being like, oh, this looks good. And then, like, when the new trailer came out, those same people were being like, oh, I'm kind of confused why they changed the design, but this looks a little bit better, or like, this still looks good. Jim Carrey looks funny, that kind of stuff. Like, just genuine, like, interest. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if they can only go to the movie
will they
once,
see that? You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
How many people that have that kind of reaction on Facebook are like, I'm going to see this in theaters, or I'm going to rent this when it's free on Amazon, or I'm going to see it on the back of a plane flight.
I think the best case scenario, now that I'm thinking about it, for Sonic, like, one, I think would have to match Pokemon Detective Pikachu. But you know what? One movie that I kind of like, I would put the same feel for. I know this is going to be kind of goofy, but the Jumanji film that we got, the most recent one, not the one that's coming out in like a month, the most recent one. I'm saying, like, that's the kind of audience I'm feeling for Sonic. And that movie did well.
Yeah, I mean, that movie made well enough that they very, very quickly fast-tracked a sequel to that is coming out, like, this month or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I keep seeing trailers for it, and I'm like, wait.
Already?
This is coming out?
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I'll take
Maybe that's a bad thing, though. Who knows?
That's fine.
Worst comes to worst, this movie does, like, Angry Birds 2, which I think just completely bombed. I remember being like, why are they making another one of these movies?
Opening weekend's going to tell a lot, for sure. If it does anything less than, like, what we were throwing out there, 25, 30, I think it's in trouble. If it does anything less than, like, 10, then it's, oh, I'm sorry, this movie's going to be gone before you even can think.
Yeah.
Sonic is going to be speeding his way out of the
Sonic can't run too fast when he's 6 feet under. Well, in any case, we're not going to find out more about Sonic sales until it releases in theaters, February 14th, worldwide. So yeah, next week we're going to do another review. Maybe not a watch-along this time. We're going to review, what's it called again? Sonic Christmas Blast. So next week will be, that's what it's called. Next week is going to be a review of the titular Sonic Christmas special, 1996 Sonic Christmas Blast. So yeah, look out for it next week. And then the week after is going to be another review of something that might be a little bit dangerous, a little bit risque, a little bit musical. It's going to be Cats, and I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Perfect.
It's going to be terrible. So yeah, until next time, goodbye.
Bye.